I'm in Whiteman Park. Welcome to the show. It's lovely here in Whiteman Park. Beautiful day. I'm enjoying the blue sky. We're here for a reason, because this area where we are right now is where you can take your dog and let it run and have a great time. You can also bring your dingo here, and that's why we are here, to find out about the Australian... Now, I don't want to say the Australian dog, because it's better to say the Australian wolf. It's actually descended from that creature some 5,000 or more years ago. It's been in this country. It's more Australian probably than anyone you could think of, and it's endangered. This animal might not be around for too much longer unless we do some good things about it. So we thought we'd talk to the dingo people and find out all about the great Australian dingo. Hey, hello there, Nick.
How are you, Tom?
And we got Lindy here too. Hello, Lindy. I think Lindy's about to lick me. I guess that's a good sign, though, because that means I'm the alpha male or something.
Oh, she's just a very gentle creature. She's timid and gentle. She's never had any aggression towards anyone. We go around the schools and educate the students, and we went to Mount Lawley recently, where we met up with 13 different classes over 3 hours, and we had 3 different dingoes, and there wasn't a scratch there.
Yeah, of course.
It was wonderful.
We're certainly learning a lot about the dingoes and how beautiful they are. But tell us about the dingoes politically, because I guess some people might be amazed to know that you can have a dingo as a pet here in Australia, particularly in Perth. But is that the case for the whole country?
There's different laws across the country, and every state is different in regard to keeping a dingo. Queensland and South Australia, you're not allowed to have them, but the other states you can have them. WA, we'd like to see them under the Wildlife Act, and we'd like to see the authorities that are supposed to be doing their job giving out wildlife permits for dingoes as they do for raptors and reptiles. This hasn't been the case. They've been told to, everyone that's applied for the dingo licence has been told just register at the council like you would a domestic dog, which is actually quite wrong, because the dingo's not a dog, it's actually a wolf, and it's under Canis lupus dingo. It's not Canis familiaris, which is Domestic Dog Act, so it's a wrong classification for a start. We'd like to see the vermin tag of the dingo lifted and placed under endangered species.
So I guess one thing people might want to know right now is just how many dingoes do we still have in the wild?
No one can answer that question, but I can answer the question of how many dingoes are in Australia as far as classification. They've been here for 5,000 years at least, and possibly 12,000 years. No one's really sure about that. There's theories out there left, right and centre. Over the 5,000 years, which is 50 centuries, it's a long time, Europeans have settled in Australia 200 years and a bit.
Yeah, we heard this is before the written language, before the wheel.
It's pretty amazing, and over that period of time of 5,000 years, the dingo has become the master. It's the top land predator. It keeps all our ecosystem in balance. It's the Lion King concept. There are alpine dingoes, tropical dingoes, Fraser Island dingoes and desert dingoes, and all those dingoes vary in their appearance, but they all have the same DNA.
Now, of course, one of the big problems with the 1080 is it's such a horrible way to kill an animal. If we need to kill animals, we've got to do it humanely, and it seems like it's such a cruel way of doing things.
It's horrendous. When an animal or a bird takes on 1080, the death process is agonising. It can take anything from 16 to 22 hours to die an agonising death. Any organisation that espouses points to protect and stop cruelty to animals should be up in arms against this. As well as that, they can't contain 1080, so it's a health issue. The health minister should be onto this straight away, because how can they tell us that a raptor which picks up a bait won't drop that in the backyard and a child or a dog will eat it and it'll die? There's no antidote to 1080.
So what's our first step then? Nick, for the folks watching on TV right now and watching you, what can we do right here, right now? What's our first easy step, simple step?
I think the first thing to do would probably be to log on to the WA Dingo web pages, which is www.wadingo.com. There's information in that area on how to contact the ministers in Australia, the politicians that make the changes. They have to be accountable for these actions that they're doing. It's eco-vandalism, and they have to be stopped, because we must save the dingo. And they can contact the environmental ministers in each state as well as federal.
Good on you, Nick. That sounds great. And something simple for me, if I want to go out now after watching all this and go have a dingo as a pet, do I just go to the shopping centre? I mean, where do I go to get a dingo pup?
the one thing with us is we do love the dingo and we do support people who have dingoes, but we've never promoted the actual attainment of dingoes as a pet. That's not what we're about. The dingo's a wild animal. It can be tamed, but it cannot be domesticated. It isn't a pooch like a Pekingese or a poodle. We love these animals dearly, but we don't promote the pet element. I'd hate to see 15 dingo puppies in a pet shop window.
Good job. Thanks, President Nic.
Thanks very much, John.
Oh, they're lovely creatures, aren't they? And I don't know if you can hear the tram, the Whiteman Park tram in the background. After the break, we're going to find out more about the creatures and see what we can do, what you can do, and what I could do to make sure that they stay in Australia and stay alive too. We don't want to see them follow the same line as the thylacine, the Tasmanian tiger. That's all after the break. Welcome back to the show on this beautiful sunny day. It's just lovely here in Whiteman Park, and Andre is here. And Andre, you know a fair bit about the dingoes. You've got a couple, is it right? One or two at home?
I've got one dingo. I've recently got involved with the dingo. I'm involved in filming and also looking at doing a documentary, and so got involved. But after being over in Victoria at the Dingo Discovery Centre, Dingy, which is my dog now, picked me and decided.
Good. So Dingy the dingo picked you.
I want to call him Houdini, but my daughter's, she's 6, she decided, at the time she was 5, she decided, Dingy was a better name, and it caught on, and that was it, Dingy Dingo. So we brought him home because at the time there was a lot of males in the colony there, and when you've got too many males, the alphas compete for dominance, and they self-cull, so they don't want too many males.
Sure.
And
now, I mean, dingoes are normally quite placid, quite calm creatures, so that's a pretty unusual situation, right?
Yeah, it's a situation brought about because of ample food in that environment. They're being looked after. The owners of the park try and keep as least involvement in the dingoes' selection of breeding, all of that. The only issue is we're so low in numbers now that they're obviously trying to keep
How
the
low?
numbers. Well, it's estimated that there may be as low as only 100 native or purebred alpines left in the wild. So by keeping these, and the upshot of that is there's too many in the small group, so the alpha males will
We're going to fight for dominance.
Yeah.
And so you helped out by taking one of the alpha males?
Yeah, I rang my
or
wife.
Or at least a contender?
I rang my wife back in Perth and said, what's the chances of bringing home a puppy? She said, I've already got the bowl and lead and a chain for him, so collar, so she'd already knew I was going to be bringing one back.
Sure. But did she know it was going to be a dingo?
Yeah, it was over at the Dingo Discovery Centre.
Now, why did you decide to go there in the first place? I mean, why go to the Dingo Discovery Centre? What had got you onto that path?
I'd actually met a lady walking the dog, and I'd seen a documentary on both on Foxtel and on the telly in relation to the plight of the dingo. I got quite fascinated by it and was making inquiries, and then a friend of mine got me to meet Nick here, from the president of the Dingo Association, and through that we decided to go over and do some filming at the Discovery Centre and start collecting vision in preparation for a documentary.
Now, tell us about the dingo and the home, because people have got some preconceived ideas about dingoes, but what's the dingo like in your house with your children?
Well, he's really a lot more like a cat. I mean, they're very aloof. They'll come over, say hello, and then thanks, and walk off. And they're affectionate with regarding just slouching on you, but they're not in your face all the time. They're not like at your heels.
So they're not like licking your face?
Oh, they'll come up and kiss you and lick you, and that's also part of the alpha male thing. I'm the alpha male in the household because they don't really domesticate, they humanise, so they become a family member, and they see me as boss. And as a respect for that, they'll come up and lick me in the face when they can, to show that, okay, you're the alpha male, and it's part of their pecking order system. Now, with the kids, I keep a very strong rein on him with regard to from when he first got there as a puppy. My daughter was 5, my son was 7 at the time, and he's 1 now, so they're 6 and 8 respectively.
So it was important to make the dingo realise straight away that of the pecking order he was right at the bottom.
Absolutely.
Right?
And that also applied to educating the children. The children don't get down on the floor with him. They start, and this should be done with all dogs. This isn't a dingo thing. This is any pack animal where there's a pecking order. And a lot of the reason why I think there's 16,000 domestic dog bites a year is the fact that people don't understand that. They don't keep that order within the pack, the human pack.
Yeah, really important. Now, tell us a bit about the history of the dingo, because, you know, I look at dingoes and I look at dogs and I think, what's the difference? So let's look at the difference, then the history.
Well, the main difference is, if you take it on a scientific level, Darwin himself classified dingo as canine limpus dingo, which is a subspecies of the wolf, whereas domestic dog is canine familiaris. So that they're a lot of breeding. They're a long way from the wolf, but they all come from that. Now, the dingo's closest relative is believed to be the Asian wolf, and at some time, estimated around 6,000 to 4,000 years ago, walked across the landmass and became part of Australian ecosystem. It is the top order land predator here now. And a lot of those differences are it doesn't bark. So a dingo will howl like a wolf, particularly if it's sorrowful, if it's sad, or give a bit of a soul. If it's joyful and sings. In relation to them being vicious and dangerous, a purebred dingo is actually quite timid. It's actually quite rare to see a purebred dingo in the wild. They're very conscious of people and everything, and they'll hold back and sit on the outskirts of the situation, and you might get a glance of them. You certainly might hear them howl. When you interbreed, because dingoes still will crossbreed with the domestic dog, then you can get anything. You get a mongrel, and that mongrel, obviously, if it's got a bit of pit bull or something in it, you'll get the vicious traits of the pit bull. Unfortunately, the dingo's markings are a dominant gene, and people will see a vicious dog, see a bit of dingo in it,
and they think it's a dingo.
They think it's the dingo.
So dingo crossbred is likely to be a bit more ferocious because it's got some dog in it, right? And they'll still look at it, think it's a dingo.
It's not likely to be more vicious. It would just be a numbers game. Out of 100 crossbreed dogs, a certain percentage of them will be vicious, but it will still look like a dingo, and so the dingo will get blamed. The other, to put it in perspective, there's about 12 official dingo bites against humans in 200 years. There's 16,000 estimated domestic dog bites a year.
Sure.
4 to 6
Do the maths,
fatals every year from domestic dogs.
Good to keep in mind. And Andre, before we go, you're making a documentary, is that right? Tell us something quickly about that.
Well, the idea behind the documentary is purely to get the message out there. We're looking at different ways, whether we put it as just an extras on a DVD or promote it through syndication. But the real issue is before we lose this dingo, it's an iconic animal of Australia. It's world recognised, and as a personal pet, I cannot walk the dog down the street without being, just everybody wants to talk to me about the dingo. The attitude is 99.9% positive from Australians. It's only negative in the media circles and in the farming lobbies. That's their livelihood. But the real issue is to save them before we lose yet another mammal which Australia has not done well in.
Yeah, important information. Good on you, Andre. He's a good guy, isn't he, Andre? Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Got to hold the microphone.
Yeah.
Shake hands with this hand. Hello, how are you? Oh, if only I spoke dingo. Anyway, Dingo Daz does, and after the break we're going to talk to him and find out more about this ancient Australian animal right after the break. Hello, welcome back to the show. We're learning more about the dingoes, the Australian dogs, if you like. We'll find out more because we're going to meet a man called Dingo Daz who joins us now. Hi, Dingo Daz.
How are you?
Good, thanks. And tell us about this little one here.
This is Loxy, our 14-month-old pure alpine dingo. I got her through Nick, the president of the WA Dingo Association. It's now incorporated, and basically got her to sort of help preserve the pure lineage of the dingo.
Now, this is 100% pure dingo, right?
Yep, she is indeed. She was born in Perth, Western Australia, August 11th last year. So she's just gone into her, just going out of her childish puppy stage into the adolescent running around stage.
And how many years does that take, or month?
Well, your normal domestic dog will probably settle around 2 years. Pretty much the same with your wolfish dingo. She'll start, hopefully, to settle down in the next 12 months or so, once you sort of like establish a mating sort of ritual, I suppose.
Now, why did you decide to go for a dingo? I mean, there's so many animals to have as pets. What is it about dingoes that are special to you?
I've had 3 blue heelers for the last probably 15 years now, and in their genetic makeup, they're 70% dingo. And my youngest one, Ted, I call him Blue Dingo. He's so sly and has that look about a dingo, and just very cunning, sort of sneaking up on you. And his playful larrikiness, much the same as the dingo is. And then when I found out through Nick that we could actually own one, I just jumped at the opportunity. I couldn't pass it up.
So you actually thought that you couldn't own a dingo?
Pretty much, because I was under the understanding that they were the native wolf to Australia, so they would be classified under the sort of native, like owning a reptile or a raptor or something like that. The fact is in WA that they still class them under the Dog Act, so I thought that's pretty much what we're trying to stop doing, is having the domestic dog crossbreeding with the dingo, so they should be sort of allocated their own sort of licensing rights under a
So
native.
should it almost be, if I can simplify it, should it almost be like cats, dogs and dingoes?
Should be, yeah, pretty much, because you're pretty much looking at the dingo as a wildlife animal rather than a domestic sort of dog or a cat.
And can we say, because I don't know a whole lot about dingoes, but I'm learning talking to you and Andre, can we say that dingoes are as Australian as maybe kangaroos and koalas? Is that how far back they go?
Sure, yeah. The testing in DNA and mitochondrial DNA sort of shows that they've been here for at least 5,000 years, anywhere up to 12,000 years, and that's like before the wheel was invented and written language. So I think they've sort of pretty much sort of evolved here and have a natural right to be classified as native.
Now, what do people say when your dingoes come running up and they say, "Oh, what lovely dogs," and you say, "Well, they're dingoes."
A lot of people see them and straight away they see Loxy and say, "Is that?" And they can't quite get it on the tip of their tongue to say dingo straight out. But 9 times out of 10, when you say, "Yeah, she's pure dingo," they say, "I thought so. I thought they're a beautiful animal," and they can't believe how good-natured they are.
All right, now here's the tough question. Why Dingo Daz? Why are you Dingo Daz?
Dingo and Daz, short for Darren. So I thought connect it together, dingodaz.com, easy enough to remember.
I like it. Dingodaz.com. There, look, see, can you see that there? Dingodaz.com. Hey, Dingo Daz.
All the information on the website regarding dingoes and all the myths. We try and get as much factual evidence as possible with all the studies through the CSIRO, with as far as what their eating habits and what's been found in their stomachs when they've been trapped and culled, just to sort of display the myths that they are not as bad as what they are, and they are a great ecological keeper of the environment. They will keep everything in balance.
I like it.
I've found ever since I've had my dingo in my possession the last 12 months, there's no bobtail lizards and rats and mice running around, because the next door neighbours have birds, so of course you get your mice. Great mouser. Much like a cat, but very much aloof animal, very, very great companion animal.
Hey.
I'd never go anywhere without her.
Dingo Daz, thanks very much for joining
Thanks
us.
very much for having me.
Well, let's have a look here. We got some technology here. We've got a dingoes. We got a laptop, some cameras and stuff. What's going on? Looks like it's the work of a researcher, which is what Lee does. How are you, Lee?
I'm good, thanks, John. How are you?
Yeah, I'm well. And why are you a researcher for dingoes?
I am Loxy's co-guardian. We've had her, as Darren said, for 14 months now, and since we've had her, my life has been overtaken by the dingo and everything about the dingo, and my misconceptions about the dingo have been totally overruled. And
All right, well, let's find out. What were the misconceptions, first of all? Let's get those clear.
like everyone else, I had the misconceptions that dingoes were a vicious animal, couldn't be tamed, weren't friendly, ate everything in existence, and were just bad in general. And since we've been looking after Loxy, I've learned that all of that is not true.
Would you find it's the opposite?
It would be totally the opposite. She is the most wonderful animal, as is her species, and they perform a vital role in the Australian ecology.
Now, in the ecology, they're basically, as we heard earlier, they do what the lions do in the jungle. They kind of keep everything in balance.
They do. They are the top predator in the Australian ecosystem at the moment, and they've been doing that successfully for about 5,000 years. They since introduced species like rabbits, goats, pigs, cats and foxes, who have been decimating the natural wildlife here, like your small marsupials. The dingo has taken care of those animals, and what we're doing at the moment now by taking the dingoes out of the ecosystem is totally disrupting that and causing an imbalance that we need to do something about.
Yeah. Well, tell us more about the dingo as why it should not be used as a pet, because I would have thought, seeing the animals now, they look lovely. I think it'd be a great pet.
They're fantastic. They're fantastic animals, and I wouldn't completely rule them out as a pet, but you'd have to be a completely dedicated person and give 100% of your time to keep them as a pet. But rather than call them a pet and ownership of a dingo, I'd rather say you're a guardian of a dingo. You know, you are not controlling them in any way whatsoever. They are not a pet. They are a wild animal at heart and always will be.
Sure. Because we heard earlier, Andre said he was chosen by his.
You do. They choose you as an alpha, and unless they respect you, they're not going to respect your alpha authority. And the same way they choose their mates. You can't simply put a dog and a dingo together and have them mate, because they just say no.
All right, good thing. So it sounds like there's a lot of work being done with the dingoes, which is great. And you're doing a lot of work on the website as well, because you look after Dingo Daz's website.
Yeah, amongst my other responsibilities, I do try and update the website every now and then, and try and get up the relevant information. So hopefully I'll be able to get a chance to do a bit more.
So the folks at home can log onto your website, or Dingo Daz's website anyway, and find out more. Yep. That sounds great, and see some more of the information.
If they go to that website or the wadingo.com website, they will find all the information they need.
Thank you. I almost feel like calling you Dingo Daz. Thanks very much.
I'm the man behind Dingo Daz.
Oh, they're lovely, aren't they? Lovely animals. Our Australian dingoes. Well, that's it for the program. We've run right out of time. I've found it fascinating learning about these wonderful creatures, endangered creatures, and anything we can do to help them is tremendous. And maybe if you'd like to find out more, or send an email or a text or a letter, this is how you can do it.
John loves to receive your letters and emails, so send your letter to Post Office Box 6721 East Perth 6892, or you can email. Maybe even view his website. Back to you, John.
Drop me a correspondence. Now it's time. Oh, there's the alarm. Time for me to go. I've got to go catch that Whiteman tram and head on home. I hope it takes me home. I hope it does. See you next time.